And last year, an archdiocese narrowly escaped a major fraud lawsuit by agreeing to pay roughly $1 million in settlements. Now, an advocacy group is revisiting the case and threatening the tax-exempt status of the archdiocese. Church Militant's Aidan O'Connor takes a new look at challenges in New Orleans.
Survivors of childhood sex abuse is bringing the Archdiocese of New Orleans to bear for suspected taxpayer fraud. Last week, the nonprofit advocacy group filed an IRS complaint accusing the Archdiocese of misusing federal government aid. Richard Winman, president of the Survivors Organization, also known as SCSA, explained his motives to Church Militant.
The goal is for the federal government to do a thorough examination of their operations and to take away their nonprofit if we're right.
Last year, the Archdiocese narrowly dodged a lawsuit accusing it of unjustly collecting taxpayer-funded aid for Hurricane Katrina. The Department of Justice alleged that the Archdiocese raked in $46 million more in government aid than was defensible. The Archdiocese agreed to pay a roughly $1 million fine to settle the case. But in the settlement, the Catholic Archdiocese also agreed to cooperate with any future investigation. Church Militant spoke with SCSA's General Counsel, Helen McGonigal.
Being accused of fraud to the tune of $46 million, the illegal activity here has to be looked at very closely. And it's our hope that the IRS will do that.
New Orleans Archbishop Gregory Amen has not responded to SCSA's challenge.
This is a pretty egregious example of the abuse of the public trust.
SCSA is fighting for victims of clerical sex abuse who are now seeing their tax dollars abused by the church. Aidan O'Connor, Church Militant, Evening News, Detroit.
On top of fraud allegations and mismanagement, the Archdiocese of New Orleans filed for bankruptcy last year due to growing numbers of sex abuse lawsuits. I know people will find that very surprising, but this is proving more and more to be quite a cesspool when it comes to the church.
Mm-hmm. When the Archdiocese had agreed to pay out that $1 million and to cooperate with other investigations that go on, they didn't know about the can of worms that they were going to open up. They didn't know that they could potentially lose their tax-exempt status, and that's really what's getting them hot water, at least on their end. They're freaking out right now.
Yeah, freaking out is probably a very good word. Look, if people understand the amount of money, and I put a call and I didn't hear a call back, an answer to the question, but if you lose your tax-exempt status and it's known that while you were using your tax-exempt status, you were collecting money fraudulently or something like that, not only do you lose it going forward, you also have to repay what you should have paid in taxes going back. So if you just think just as an individual, you get audited by the IRS and they say, oop, we saw something on this one, so we're going to go back 4 years. And I mean, that could potentially cost the Archdiocese millions and millions of dollars and no tax-exempt status moving forward. If that happens, that kind of case could become sort of a template for going after archdioceses all over the country.
Correct me if I'm wrong. This is a question for you, Mike. Typically when we see these things begin to happen, an archdiocese will just go bankrupt. I mean, we've seen it in multiple dioceses throughout the country, like, okay, no more investigation because bankruptcy. Well, so why wouldn't New Orleans?
There's sort of two different things. There's the bankruptcy code. You can file under Chapter 11, you can Chapter 10, Chapter 12, and each of those is its own different thing. Filing for bankruptcy doesn't necessarily mean we're out of money. It's like the old Monopoly game you play where I'm just out of money and I've mortgaged everything. Lots of times it's a reorganization and you turn your records over to the court and the court says, okay, we're going to look at all your debts, we're going to look at all of your assets, and we're going to cash them in, sell this, do that, pay off your debt, set up the payment structure for you so you can continue doing business. If an individual goes bankrupt, they're done. They lose essentially everything. But if a business or a corporation goes bankrupt, it's a different story. So I'm sure the last thing any archdiocese in the United States wants is a court going through all of their hidden paperwork. All right.